Welcome to Noob-Splaining. My name is Wolf. If this is your first time here, then this is where I explain the crazy, over-the-top world of Warhammer 40,000 that nerds like me love so much. So, settle in, grab a drink, and prepare for a Noob-Splaining session. Yes, I know it's a Tuesday, but seeing as I have far more free time on my hands than I planned, I'm now trying to get more videos out each week. So, we're going back to the Combat Patrol reviews. This week we're taking a look at the Drukhari, or if you're old school like me, the Dark Eldar. So the format as always for this series is a brief recap of the lore, what's in the box, what I reckon you should do with it on the tabletop, and what you should get next. So let's start with a brief background of today's topic, the Drukhari, the evil pointy-eared space elf bastards of 40k. Now, there are many theories flying around, like in several other franchises, that the Dark Elves of that setting are only evil through the necessity to survive. Now, don't be fooled by these pointy-eared bastards. They are evil through and through, and thoroughly by choice, and by far the most evil of any of the factions. If anyone tells you they are not, then ignore them and anything else they have to say, as they are clearly a fucking idiot. Now, if you're not up to speed on the fall of the Eldar and the birth of Slaanesh, I have done a vid on it already, so you might want to go familiarise yourself with that. But after the birth of Slaanesh, the Graf World Eldari were like, wow, good job we keep our emotions in check, but we better keep them even more in check, and wear these spirit stones, so if we die, our soul goes into the stone and not to Slaanesh. The Exodites were like, yep, same for us, hand out some soul stones please. The Harlequins then said, yeah, we'll have some soul stones too, plus we will travel to every Eldari settlement to perform for them to remind everyone to curb their emotions. The Drukhari, who at this point were probably figuratively and literally balls deep in someone's guts, were offered spirit stones, shrugged their shoulders and carried on with their violence and hedonism. They did, however, totally curb the use of their psychic powers, making them a faction that is a race of powerful psychics that doesn't use psychic powers. Ever. Now, Slaanesh being the twisted motherfucker it is, like the idea of them performing murder, torture, and all other sorts of horrible things on other races and sometimes each other. So when they do, Slaanesh rejuvenates them a little. So as long as they keep up with their violence and hedonism, they get to live forever, yet none of them directly worship Slaanesh. Okay, I hear you say, a life of violence and hedonism for eternal life instead of their soul going to Slaanesh, which is a fate far worse than death. I can get behind the whole out of necessity thing, but like I said, that's utter bullshit, as they have a machine that if you die, all it needs is a single piece of your DNA, and not only will it clone you, it will also bring your soul back from the warp. Now, use that in conjunction with the spirit stones, and you don't have to murder fuck everything around you to live forever. But no, they choose to. So anybody saying they are not inherently evil, then I have a bridge to sell you that goes over the River Thames at a very reasonable price. So, even with this cloning device, they still go out and raid settlements for more victims to drag back to their city TONOR, which is hidden deep within the webway. If your settlement gets hit by a Drukhari raiding party, the best thing you can do is put up such a fight they'll just kill you, as you're not worth the effort of trying to be subdued and captured. If you are captured, the next best thing you can hope for is being thrown into the gladiator pits, where you are promptly murdered by some spells elf with a big stabby thing, or set upon by a tyrannid or some other creature and ripped apart in seconds. Not pretty, but at least it's quick. The worst thing is they torture you, and this isn't just a few hours or days. The Drukhari will keep you in agony for eternity, as they have ways of keeping your body alive indefinitely, all while they stretch your flesh and bones, effectively turning you into a piece of furniture. So for the rest of eternity, you're going to be sat on by some fetish-loving space elf while in more pain than you can imagine. At least the slender bastards don't weigh much. By far the smallest faction in the game, they are not an offensive faction fighting for territory either new or lost. The only time they venture out the safety of TONOR is to gather more victims, and the only reason they've gotten into a fight is because they've raided the same settlement one time too many, and now someone has come to stop them. That's it. There's no other reason for these bastards to be on the tabletop, apart from the fact they need to be stopped. If they're fighting each other, it's because they both want to raid the same settlement and keep the victims for themselves. They don't know what sharing means, except when it comes to the expenditure of ammo. So, with that being said, let's have a look what's in the box. So a total of 18 models including 2 vehicles, so good value for money. Specifically, you get 1 Archon, who's your army's leader, 10 Cabalite warriors, 5 Incubi, 1 Ravager and 1 Raider. The Drukhari are a raiding force and nothing more, and their selection of units show this. So let's dive into them. Now, the Archon is your leader, and unlike any other leader we have seen so far, it's pretty fucking shit in melee combat. It does have 5 attacks that hit on a 2+, but are only strength 3. However, it does have the anti-infantry 3+ keyword in melee, meaning if the target is infantry, regardless of their toughness, you wound on a 3+. The attacks also do a -2 to save and 2 damage, so pretty devastating to infantry, shit against everything else. If the enemy commander or a unit like a Dreadnought type class gets the Archon into melee, the Archon is going to get its shit kicked in with a measly toughness 3 and a wounds of 4. It does however have a 2+ invulnerable save, making it quite a bit tanky, which is unusual for this faction, as generally Drukhari and Eldar units can dish it but can't take it. This can take it but can't dish it, with the exception of infantry. For ranged it has a splinter pistol, which while it also has the anti-infantry 3+ keyword and assault, it's still massively underwhelming with just 1 attack and a very pathetic strength 2 at range 12. You can swap this for the blast pistol, which only has a range of 6, 1 attack, but a massive strength 8, -3 to save and D3 damage, which means apart from infantry, you're going to need to get this up close and hope whatever you shoot dies in 1 turn or you're going to get turned into a paste. It does also have an ability that once a battle, if an opponent uses a stratagem, it then permanently costs 1 more command point the next time they use it. If leading a unit, they also get to reroll wounds, but frankly I can't see the point in embedding it in a ranged unit or a melee one. The Cabalite Warriors are your straight up infantry, armed with splinter rifles, appropriately named as when I look at the weapon stats, it does look like it just fires splinters, rubber ones at that, with all the edges perfectly rounded. Although they have a range of 24 inches and between them 20 attacks, the gun only has a strength of 2, which frankly is pathetic. It does have keyword anti-infantry 3+, so regardless of the target's toughness, as long as it's infantry you're shooting at, they're going to wound on a 3+, which is only saving grace. As you shoot at anything else, you're going to do fuck all damage. However, out of the squad of 10, you can replace 4 of these weapons with a blaster, a dart lance, a shredder and a splinter cannon. So the blaster has a range of 18 inches, a strength of 8 which is very good, a -4 to save with d6 + 1 damage, so that makes it very good against vehicles and characters. The dart lance has a 36-inch range, a monstrous strength 12, -3 to save and d6 + 2 damage, making it superb against vehicles and characters. The splinter cannon has a 36-inch range, anti-infantry 3+, and sustained hits 1. It's quite impressive, shame you only get the 1. Now it's got 3 attacks, but every 6 you roll to hit you get to add 1 dice to the wound roll. It has a strength of 3, but that's regardless when shooting at infantry, as you wound on a 3+, a -1 to save and 2 damage. It has the potential to kill 3 Space Marines per turn, but realistically just 1, maybe injure a second. Finally, the Shredder is basically the flat cannon from Unreal Tournament. 18-inch range, d6 attacks, always hits, and with an impressive strength 6 is going to hurt most infantry and command units, but each attack is only doing 1 damage with no save modifier. The Incubi are your dedicated melee units, and I think this is the first time we've seen a box set with dedicated melee and ranged. Although there is only 5 of them, they get in total 15 attacks, with an OK strength of 4, but with a -2 to armour save, and a damage of 2, so these are good against heavy infantry and most characters. For some reason, they only have a move of 7 inches, yet you need to be getting them into melee combat as quickly as possible, yet the Cabalites, who are the ranged, have a move of 8. Go figure. So, onto our 2 vehicles. First is the Ravager, a fast moving tough little fire platform. With a massive 14-inch move, it is armed with 3 dart lancers that are great against characters and vehicles, and will reduce most things it targets to molten slag in a single turn. It also has a D-cannon that is going to be good against infantry and some characters. Finally, we have the Raider. It sacrifices 2 of those dart lancers to become a fast-moving troop transport, with a firing deck of 11, so you can stuff the Cabalites on it and they can all fire. It also has Aether Sails, so if you advance, you don't roll a d6 to see how much you add to its move, you just add 6, which tells you more on how it should be used. So how would I recommend you play this combat patrol? Stuff the Cabalites in the Raider, and instead of using its deep strike, set it as far forward as you can and use its 20-inch advance move to get it in range of as many enemy units as you can, specifically infantry. Use its single dart lance to really fucking hurt something tough like a character, dreadnought or vehicle. Then you use the D-cannon and the Cabalites that are on board, but split your fire to do serious damage to as many enemy infantry as you can. The trick is you want to seriously injure each squad, but not totally wipe them out. So you probably want to be firing at 2, maybe 3 squads at the most, depending what you're facing. At this point, you're probably going to be in the middle of the battlefield, making this thing a fucking bullet magnet from all the damage it's just done. That's fine. The Ravager then needs to use its 3 Dark Lancers, I suggest one at a time, to take out the toughest character, vehicle or unit on the battlefield. For example, a Dreadnought. This is why I use them one at a time. So if you kill it on the first or second shot, you haven't wasted your final shot and can target something else. That will probably then switch the focus of it to being the bullet magnet, which again is fine. While these 2 platforms are taking the fire, you move the Archon and the Incubi up close to the damaged units, allowing them to easily finish them off in melee. After that, you then use what big guns you have left on your vehicles to mop up any surviving characters or vehicles, as your normal guns won't do shit to anything that isn't infantry. Don't forget about the guns we swapped out on the Cabalites as well. Some of them are good against non-infantry too. In theory, you should have board wiped the enemy in 3 turns. They have the unique rule of power from pain, but frankly it's a bit shit and won't really turn the tide of the battle. It just gives you tokens that you could then use to make re-rolls on either advance or charge rolls, or to hit rolls in shooting or melee, but pretty much everything seems to hit on a 3+ or better anyway. So what would I add? Normally when I'm looking at a balanced army of ranged, melee, some tough units and some anti-tank units and a vehicle. Going through the units, it's basically all melee units with some tougher ones, with no real Dreadnought class per se. As for vehicles, they're all fast moving skimmers that are either good against infantry or everything else, one or the other. The Drukhari are a very specialised army to play. You need to be able to lay down enough firepower with your fast moving units and hope they can weather the return fire while you move your melee units, that are the real killers, into combat. The Scourgers have more manoeuvrability than Cabalites and can be equipped with a wide variety of ranged weapons. Again, they are designed to get in and get out, same with Hellions. But that's just it with the Drukhari. They are a raiding force and need to be played as such. Keep moving your guns around the battlefield, confusing your enemy, taking shots at targets of opportunity that your weapons are most effective against, while you rush the melee units up to finish them off. In all honesty, I have no idea what I would add next, and would need to spend a little more time than I have poring over these data cards. As for the Boxer, excellent models and look like they would be fun to paint. Well, I already play Eldari, so Drukhari is a bit more of the same for me, but with spikes, leather and more fetishes. They are a challenging army to play, similar to the Eldari, and if you're totally new to tabletop wargames, I probably won't recommend them as a starter army, as they are difficult to master, but once you do, they can be very rewarding, especially when you pull off that perfect attack. If you have played tabletop games before, then you could probably jump in with the Drukhari and ride that tough learning curve. But just remember, if you don't kill everything by the end of turn 3, your enemy usually will. And there we have it. That brings us to the end of this week's video. If you made it this far, thank you very much, and if you laughed or learned anything, please consider hitting that subscribe and like button. Also, don't forget to share this video with somebody who could do some Noob-Splaining in their life. Please leave a comment. I do try and interact with every comment I get, but most importantly, thank you, and I'll see you next time.